Point of order. We're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
I had to do that again. That just really put a, on some things.
Board in a motion. The mics are not on, Dean. That might have helped. Okay. Board in a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight.
Second?
It's been moved and properly seconded. We approve the agenda. All in favor? Motion carried. Board, we need a motion to approve the consent items. We do just want to make mention that we do have 2 overnight trips that are listed in the consent items. I'll take the motion whenever y'all ready.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent item with 2 overnights.
Been moved and properly seconded. We approve the consent items. All in favor? Motion carried. Washington County Schools will be led by 21st century professionals. Board, we need a motion to approve the personnel report.
I make a motion to approve the personnel report.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor? Motion carried. Good news, solar grant submission. Dr. White.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we did submit the grant for the solar array to go on the new facility, pre-K-12 facility. We're hoping that we will receive that grant. It will allow us to also provide some curriculum around that array. It will be placed at the on the top of the building and provide some supplemental energy to our facility as well. So we're hoping that we will receive that grant, and then we can begin development of that as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. Washington County Schools will be governed and supported by 21st Century Systems. There's my update. I was not at the meeting, so we don't have an update. They have not mailed me my minutes yet. Approval of the Rural Utilities Service Grant, $78,434. Match to accept the contract.
Is Ms. Chair, is
Ms.
Ms. Jordan here? She is not, okay. Did you want to share anything with about the Russ grant? Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Daniel Smith, Chief Technology Officer. Washington County Schools applied for a Rural Utility Services grant from the USDA. We were awarded that grant in the amount of approximately $588,000. That grant will specifically allow us to put new interactive communication technology in every single classroom of the new school. That has already been approved. We've already had 1 meeting. However, part of that over $500,000 grant that Ms. Simpson and I wrote to get this for the new building, there is a small matching portion that we have to come up with, and so that amount is the amount that's listed there.
For the 78,000?
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed. And that is an immediate grant. We're working on that right now, and we plan on having everything ordered as soon as technology is available. We like to have it at the beginning of school, but as soon as we can get it in, that will go in every single classroom.
That'll be awesome. Thank you.
And it will also give them distance learning capabilities from every single classroom.
Wow, thank you.
Welcome.
Yes. Information item. WCS year-over-year recovery trends presentation. Mrs. Simpson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am very excited to share some of our trend data with the board and with our stakeholders this evening. Okay. While Mr. Smith's working on getting the presentation up, we were able to, on February 13th, attend an Esser Cliff planning session. It was some of our district support staff, including Dr. White, Ms. Jordan, Ms. Gallup, Dr. Yancey, myself, that really looks at our funding and what our data is showing us in our recovery efforts from the pandemic. And so we're going to start off with some data of what it's showing about our recovery rates. And from there, we're going to talk about like what our next steps are. So the first thing I want to show you that Ms. Crescendo was able to provide you guys this packet as well, but this is our trend data from the pandemic. So the very first row is the average progress our students were making in comparison to the state. And you see that we were right around, we were staying neck and neck with the state in most areas. There was small negatives in some places and small positives in some places as an overall average from 2013 to 2019. Well, we know the pandemic hit in 2020. And so when we came back for testing in 2021, you see that our students took a significant loss. There was a significant negative. Those dark colors mean that it was a strong negative impact. And as you get lighter, it's a less negative. When it changes colors, that means it's positive. And the smallest, again, is that lightest, like pinky purple, to the darkest pinky purple. Okay. The first column in each of those rows under the heading is the district, is Washington County Schools. The next column is the state's impact overall, and then the difference between those two is that white column in each of the columns underneath the headings. So you see post-pandemic, our students were hit dramatically with learning loss. We had significant loss of instruction. But as you look in that first column under each of those major column headings under the district, so when we're looking here in this first column, Washington County Schools is gaining ground. So much so that we are outperforming the state's recovery in multiple areas. So we are closing the gap between where the state was prior to the pandemic and where we are now. We knew that coming back and recovering from the pandemic was not going to be a one-year effort. We knew it wasn't going to be even 2 or 3, that it is going to take a series of years of a lot of work to get these students back and on a higher trajectory, and we see that's working. So we're going to highlight some of our specific areas. If you look at last year's results, notice that there are 3 areas that are still dark blue. And those dark blue areas are areas that have remained dark blue over time, right? So we know that that's an area we've got to focus on. But I want to point out that there are 3 areas on that chart where we are showing positive gain, which means we are going way above where they were expecting us to be post-recovery, and we are beating the state significantly in those areas. So we are moving forward little by little. Washington County Schools is gaining ground to come back up where the state is.
Yeah, this takes time.
So we're going to look at some of our highlights. 5th grade math is one of those highlights. I'm going to explain this graph to you just so as we move forward, we're all kind of looking at the same things. So the gray solid line and the gray dash line in each of these graphs will be what the state was, what they were actually doing, the average of the state, and the dotted line is what they were projected to do coming out of the recovery. The purple line is what we actually did. And the dash line is if we were following the trend prior to the pandemic, where they would have expected our scores to be. The blue dots were the actual average of our scale scores. And the blue dashed lines are if we averaged our last 3 scores, where that would be. I want you to see that where they expected us to be post-pandemic from our trend, we are significantly higher. in fifth grade math. So we are outperforming what they expected us to be able to do, and we are closing that gap that was widening, significantly increasing that, like decreasing that gap between where the state is performing and where Washington County Schools is performing. You see this same thing happening in eighth grade math over time. So again, where they're expecting us to be, we are now just slightly over where they were expecting us to be. But because we are gaining back at such a high rate, we are closing that distance between us and the state. English 2 is another one I really want to highlight because English 2 is a very difficult subject. It is where we start incorporating writing, a written response to that test. And as you can see, not only did we increase after the pandemic, but we've been able to maintain that increase, and we are still doing better than what the state is expecting us to do after that increase. And again, high school students post-pandemic, there are a lot of things that we're still trying to work through, and the fact that our English 2 scores are still maintaining that positive gain, and we haven't dropped back down, is amazing for us. Fifth grade science is my next one. Again, when we look at this, the state has a very steep increase of a line, right? That fifth grade science is a tough test. And so because of that, we have seen kind of a fluctuation of our students being successful, but now we see a steady increase. And since that post-pandemic, that very first year, we've kind of got on something, and that's because the teachers are collaborating a lot more. They are talking about our pacing guides. They're doing all of that work. And so we are being much more collaborative because of some of that work, and we see that impact happening now. So, as I talked at the beginning, there are some continued areas of growth. And the interesting part is we were already able to identify these from this year's data. We saw this trend coming, and we've started to put items in place now, programs in place now to be able to support this. So our data, when we come out to our year-over-year data for next year, we don't see dark blue in these areas. We see that we are starting to catch back up like we talked about. So fourth grade reading is one of these areas where consistently, since the pandemic, we have had a drop. There's a lot of reasons for this. You think about third grade and how much support and extra interventions they get in third grade. We've got all of these different ways to show proficiency. And then when they get to fourth grade, all of that extra support kind of drops, right? And so it takes them a little bit of time to figure it out. And then it takes us a little bit more time in fifth grade. So we see that fifth grade numbers growing, but that fourth grade drop is a lot. Well, first off, letters is going to help us tremendously with this, right? We're going to have students who are more prepared as they come through, and we'll start seeing that. But we also put an intervention program for all of our 3-5 students to specifically address phonics. So all students, 20 minutes a day, take that reading intervention on phonics and how to read and how to become fluent readers. That will increase these results. Next, we look at eighth grade science. We know that we have struggled over time to fill science positions, and you'll see with eighth grade science and biology, we have struggled to fill those positions, and we have not been able to come back and have a strong eighth grade science teacher in that position. So we've been working with NCVPS, but we know that that isn't always the best fit for all of our students. And when you're doing it for a whole grade level, it might not meet all of those students' needs. So we're really excited that we have an eighth grade science teacher this year who's in person working with those students. We're also working with not only NERISA to provide additional science training, knowing that secondary science and math are one of those areas that we really have to focus on, but we're also working with the Northeast Collaborative, the CARES Collaborative. We've created pacing guides, we have provided additional science training, and really working to understand the standards that we have to make sure the students are getting that best possible instruction. And you see that same trend with biology. Math 1 is the last one I want to talk about. And as you can see, there has not been much movement in Math 1, and that is the problem, right? again, you see that state trajectory going up, and we are just holding steady where that is. We know that that comes from a lot of different things, specifically there being some foundational skills being missed. And so again, we're going back to creating those pacing guides, providing extra secondary math professional development to make sure, one, that our teachers know how to engage students in this conceptual math, making sure that we're providing them all of the resources and tools, and that we're really providing a rigorous math environment to our students. So when we get this data, we, even before this presentation, we spent time looking at that data to figure out what our next steps were. So we really kind of use questions like this, is what do the subgroups further tell us? Where do we see students are struggling? We know that in our district, students with disabilities are struggling, and so we've put in additional things to help that specific group of students. We know that there are specific areas that we have additional learning loss. We haven't been able to make up any ground, and we've put in additional supports for that. And so we've continued to look for those gaps, and that's what we will continue to do. And as we go through these questions and look at our data with our check-ins, with our fall EOC data, and as we move into our spring EOC data, we'll be able to see if the interventions we have are working, and if not, what are our next steps. But making sure that we are looking for how to determine what the return on investment is for these programs we're looking at as we come to this ESSER cliff is going to be really important. At the very beginning of when we came out of the pandemic, I came and asked for almost an $80,000 contract for Imagine Learning, which was going to be the intervention program our K-5 was going to be using, right? Looking at, have we implemented that with Fidelity? Did we see the results we wanted? Was that worth our investment? If it's not, what are we going to do, right? To make sure we are doing things that are effective for students. Is it the most aligned, right? Like comparing what we said we were going to do with the outcomes we wanted, were they there? And so when we look at developing this, the state's kind of given us a tool to be able to use. And we look at how much, whatever that program costs or that investment cost, the number of students that used it and were impacted, what our intended outcomes were, if they were met, and then was it implemented with fidelity, right? Because if it had somewhat of an impact, but it wasn't implemented with fidelity, then we might be able to work on the fidelity to get the return on investment higher. So as we move forward, we will be using this tool that the state has provided to help make sure we are aligning the resources we have left after ESSER, that we are using them in the most impactful way, that we are looking at the groups where we're not growing, and we are using them to target subgroups, we are using them to target content areas to ensure that we are helping students grow. As I said at the very beginning, we knew that recovery from the pandemic was not going to be a one-year thing. We knew it wasn't going to be 2 or 3, but it is very clear that our teachers are working hard, the strategies we have about deconstructing standards, making sure we're having aligned learning targets to our exit tickets, that we are doing, looking at data, we are openly analyzing it and talking about it, trying to find different strategies, pulling in different experts to support us is working. And we will continue to support and look at that data to be as flexible as we needed. But this shows that the people of Washington County, our students, our staff, our district supports, right, are all working towards a goal, and it really, truly is working. So I'm really excited to be able to share that data with you. And if you guys have any questions, or if Dr. White has anything he wants to add.
No, I think you did a wonderful job. The workshop that we attended in Williamston was very, very positive and informative, and it helped us kind of guide our path forward. And so I'm excited about using the tool to analyze and to use as a litmus test for the programs that we utilize to ensure that we are moving forward and making gains, and that we are being fiscally responsible with the money that we spend in this district. So, thank you, Ms. Simpson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. That was very nice.
Yeah, I think they're doing a wonderful job due to the COVID-19, and we're not the only school district is having problems with that. I think we're doing an excellent job. I commend the teachers and principals and whatever And especially you setting the program up. I think this is a wonderful job.
Well, it's definitely not one person, right? Like everybody's pitching in.
yeah.
Everybody is lifting as we climb.
Yes, we
We're
are.
all building capacity. As I learn, I bring it to others. As they learn, they bring it to others. Like it is all of us working together to make the impact. And slow, small steps means that change will stay over time. When you just change something quick, it like that fad can just go away. But making sure we're doing slow, small steps can remain.
Before we go on to the next one, Madam Chair, did you want to take action on that last?
Yeah, we need to go ahead. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir. I was gonna come back to it.
There you go.
But we need to entertain a motion on the approval of the Rural Utility Services Grant.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the Rural Utility Service Grant for $78,434.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. All right. Back at you, Ms. Simpson.
It's that time of year again where we are getting excited about our new group of pre-K students. And so just want to make sure that everyone knows kind of what that looks like. Our applications go live on our website and are available for pickup at our Cresswell, Pons, and the central office on March 1st. So this Friday, they are able to pick up their application. We start accepting applications on April 1st. That gives parents and caregivers a month to be able to get that required documentation. As you see on our screen, that required documentation is a birth certificate, proof of income, the ID of the parent, proof of residency, a children's medical report, and immunization report. Now, I do understand that the children's medical report and immunization have to come after their four-year-old well visit, so they can turn their application in without those two pieces, but we only accept applications that are full with those additional documentations. So they have to have that completed application and those documentations to turn them into central office. And we do just one turn in place to make sure that we don't lose any of the pieces. We don't, there's not like, well, I brought it to this person and I gave it to this person. There's like nothing missed or lost.
Right.
And that they have a month to be able to ask questions, get additional support. Miss Lucas at our front desk is my support person for pre-K. And so she is able to answer questions or support parents through that. We then take registrations through June 8th, and then they would get an early notice of acceptance into the pre-K program. After June 8th, we then move them to July 31st, and so then they would get notification beginning that first week in August. We will have registration events. They're on the dates of them are on the other the other flyer, but we'll have 2 at Pines, 2 at Cresswell, and 1 at Central Office. And they will be like a day one and an evening one for parents that need to work. Students do get tested. Have a screening assessment that are done. And so knowing that, just making sure parents are prepared to be able to go through all of those additional pieces. We are really excited. We were able to fill 72 slots. We did have 2 students move away, so we're currently at 70 slots. But I'm really excited. This is the first time we've been able to fill all of those slots since I've taken over pre-K, and I'm just really excited for what we continue to grow into with the school system.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Simpson.
So, thanks.
Thank you.
Some Julie.
Reminders and items of interest. That's all I got.
Yes, and I'm going to go through each one of these. I think they're very important. As you know, tomorrow we have a topping out ceremony at the new construction site as well as our building committee meetings. On March 2nd, this weekend, we have the Washington County High School JROTC Family Military Ball from 6 to 10, as well as our Spades Tournament fundraiser beginning at 1 p.m. March the 7th is the end of the third 9 weeks for high school students and progress reports for elementary and middle school students. March 5th is the Washington County School District Arts Night, so please come on out. That will be at the gymnasium for the Washington County Middle School Pines Elementary School. There will be a visual art walk at 5 p.m. and student performances at 6 p.m. Please, please, please come out and share in our students' artwork. March 6th, will be Washington County Middle School sixth grade parent meeting and curriculum night. March the 8th will be an optional teacher work day, no school for high school students. And March 12th, Washington County Board of Education meeting will be our next meeting. March 14th, early release day and report card pickup for high school students from 2 to 6. March 15th, mandatory teacher workday, no school for all students, and mandatory WINS SEL day for staff at Washington County Middle School, Pines Elementary School at 1 o'clock for teachers after the early release. And that's it, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. That includes your report as well?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. I apologize for our chair having to run out, but things happen.
Could I say something? Please pray for, we have a student who lost his father this evening, one of our athletes who was plays for our basketball team. His father passed prior to the game.
That is not something we just say like that.